Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our event, Introduction to the USDA's SBIR program with Melinda Kaufman. I'm Rebecca Todd, your moderator this morning. I work as Innovation Specialist for the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center, and we are a taxpayer-funded organization that provides confidential one-on-one consulting, training, and market research services for entrepreneurs and established businesses across the state. We've been working in Arkansas for over 40 years now, and we have 10 regional offices that allow us to serve companies where they're at. Most of our regions have at least one university-based center. Through our competitively funded federal and state technology awards, the ASBTDC is able to offer continued outreach through events like this webinar, where we share information about the SBIR STTR program for statewide and national audiences. We help entrepreneurs with every step of preparing and submitting Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR, and Small Business Technology Transfer, or STTR, proposal applications, as well as state-level applications for supplemental technology commercialization funds. To date, our clients have won 83 SBIR or STTR awards across the participating agencies, including USDA. Through our industry database subscriptions, we are able to locate market data to help our clients prepare key sections of their proposals, like the commercialization plan. Everyone who registered for today's event will be receiving a copy of the slides by the beginning of next week via GoToWebinar email. Before we get started, let's take a moment to make sure that everyone is ready and familiar with this program. So first, you should have a control panel on the right side of your screen, and you can minimize this panel by clicking on the arrow button that's in orange on the upper left corner. You can expand the panel by clicking on that same button, so take a moment to practice. And second, you have the ability to submit questions using the question pane located near the bottom of the control panel. I'm going to put a little note in that section for just to make sure that you can see my messages as well. And please do submit your questions all throughout the presentation. We can pause and ask Melinda questions as we go through. So anything that you'd like to know more about, please go ahead and type in your questions today. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Melinda Kaufman. Melinda's been with the National Institute of Food and Drug Agriculture, or NIFA, as the USDA Small Business Innovation and Research Program Coordinator since September of 2020. She manages the program that administers Phase 1 and Phase 2 grants and works closely with the Small Business Administration. Prior to this position, Melinda spent much of her career working at the University of Kansas, where she worked in social science research, consulting and training, and program evaluation. Through her research and evaluation projects, she became proficient in multiple evidence-based and emerging practices. Melinda holds a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from Northwest Missouri State University and an MBA from Benedictine College. She pursued an MBA to further her interest in applying small business principles to social problems. And the SBIR program combines agricultural research, business principles, and public service, all of which are very strong interests of hers. With that, I'll now turn the presentation over to Melinda. Thank you so much, Melinda, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to this audience. And again, I'm Melinda Kaufman. I'm the USDA SBIR Program Coordinator, and I'm very happy to be here at the Arkansas Small Business Technology and Development Center. And we get an invitation last year and really enjoyed being able to present. So thank you again. So just to give you kind of a broad idea about SBIR, STTR programs in general, this isn't just USDA, but this is for all SBIR, STTR programs. They are in place to stimulate technological and scientific innovations within the private sector. We want to also strengthen the role of small business in the United States. Increase the commercialization of innovations, so making sure that those things really get into the marketplace. And of course, very importantly, we want to foster and encourage participation by historically underserved populations. This is the USDA's non-discrimination statement. You will be getting a PDF of these slides. I won't go through all of them, but I do want to point out that this includes many many different groups, you know, based on race, national origin, gender identity, disability, marital status. It goes on. It is very inclusive of many groups. And so when you get the PDF of these slides, it'd be great if you just look through this a little bit. So we have 3 phases in SBIR STTR. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is there to kind of establish the technical merit and the feasibility. So for phase 1 is usually a proof of concept research project that you'll do throughout the period for phase 1. And also a little bit about commercial potential. So you're trying to, you know, get a footing with your innovation about to establish the technical and scientific feasibility of it. And then you're also giving some idea of what the commercial potential is. And then moving on to phase 2. Phase 2 is based on phase 1 results. And within phase 2, you expand the research and development that you began with phase 1. And this is also in phase 2 where you really start to move more heavily into the commercial potential of your innovation. So you're really working hard to do that. And during phase 1, you'll have an opportunity to work with technical and business assistants, or TABA, which we'll talk about, to build a commercialization plan for phase 2. And then phase 3 is continuing the commercialization efforts of your innovation. It is not funded by SBIR, STTR. You use other private sources for that, but it's just considered the continuation of commercialization. So a little bit about USDA SBIR and the budget. We are, as you can see from our slides this year for FY23, we're adding STTR. We're adding STTR because there is a budget limit that sets off the need in the legislation for STTR, and USDA reached that limit. So in FY23, we will be including STTR in our SBIR RFA, so it'll be a combined RFA. We're expecting it out anytime, hopefully this week, but we're pretty certain it'll be by the end of July. And so given the STTR addition, even though it's small, it does bump our annual budget up to $34 million. For phase 1, the topic areas, just let me back up really quickly. The topic areas for SBIR and STTR will be the same, so it'll be very consistent. And the award amounts range from $125,000 to $175,000. We have 10 topic areas. 8 of them are at $175,000. 2 of them are at $125,000. The duration of phase 1 for SBIR is 8 months, but for STTR it's 12 months. So there's a little difference there. For phase 2, they're exactly the same. It's $600,000 for all 10 topic areas, and it's 24 months in duration. Some of the differences I want to go over with SBIR and STTR because it can be a little bit confusing. Both work with nonprofit research institutions and federally funded R&D centers. For SBIR, that's optional, although I must say it's very common to work with a nonprofit research institution such as a university or a federally funded lab. But it is optional for SBIR. For STTR, it is required. So that's one difference. The percent of participation of nonprofit research institution or federally funded R&D center, it's different for these two. And this is probably the biggest sticking point, I suppose, or the biggest thing to kind of wrap your head around. It's for SBIR, the nonprofit university or federal lab, it's 33% or less for phase 1 and 50% for phase 2 for SBIR. And then for STTR, it's 30 to 60% for phase 1 and phase 2. The principal investigator for SBIR, that person must be employed with the small business. And for STTR, that person may be employed with either one, with either the small business or the nonprofit research institution or federal lab. Formal cooperation agreement is required, outlining the intellectual property rights. That is not necessary for SBIR, but is definitely necessary for STTR. And I think Rebecca mentioned if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat as we go along, or you can wait until the end. Either one is fine. So a little bit about program funding. For FY20, we had a 16% success rate. That was 70 awards out of 435 applications. And for FY21, we had a 15% success rate. 79 awards out of 526 applications. For phase 2, as you can see, the success rate is, the award rate is much greater. So for FY20, it was 43%, and for FY21, it was 48%. So these are some key metrics for SBIR, STTR success. So of course, the sales of the innovation, the scientific innovation and or technology is a key success metric. Also licenses, the innovation or technology is licensed. That is another success metric. And new jobs created, of course, is another important metric. Some of the features of the SBIR STTR program are that the ideas are investigator initiated. So typically we have a scientist or an inventor who is initiating the innovation, the scientific or technical innovation. And then the awards, the decisions about the awards are based on scientific and technical merit. That's really very important, and the commercial potential of the innovation. Those two things are fairly equal. So you can have a great scientific or technical innovation, but if you don't have a pathway into the market, that's going to be an issue. So you have to have both things. And then we also look at the PI and the company qualifications, because that's very important also. And then as we've touched on, subcontracting to university and federal labs is encouraged with SBIR, and it's required with STTR. Technical and business assistance is also available, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what is technical and business assistance? TABA, or TABA, however you want to pronounce it. It was introduced as part of the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2019. And this second bullet is a list of what TABA can include, but it can include a lot more than this. And it can be pretty individualized to the small business's needs. But typically, people use it a lot for IP legal costs, for all types of marketing, marketing in general, marketing research, financial reviews, and activities related to manufacturing. But again, I want to emphasize that this is not a comprehensive list. This is just common uses of TABA. So the budget for TABA for phase 1 for both SBIR and STTR, it's $6,500, and that is to develop your commercialization plan that will go into your proposal for phase 2. So again, in phase 1, remember you're doing a proof of concept, research for your innovation, and you're also at the same time developing a more comprehensive commercialization plan. And that commercialization plan will be part of your proposal for phase 2, so that it will be clear not only the research that you've done for your innovation in phase 1, establishing the feasibility, but the commercialization path will also become clearer. And then in phase 2, there's $50,000 to really accelerate the commercialization and start moving your innovation into the market. You'll still do some R&D in phase 2, but you're also going to be very focused on commercialization. And these are our topic areas for USDA, SBIR, STTR. We have 10 topic areas, and these topic areas are broad, and they're purposely broad in order to cast a wide net so that we can capture innovations. We can't anticipate what kind of innovations are out there, so that's why we keep them broad and open. So as you can see here, we have everything from forests and related resources. We have 2, plant production and protection. 8.2 is biology based, and 8.13 down here at the bottom is engineering. Of course, we have animal production and protection, conservation of natural resources, which includes air, water, and soil. And then food science and nutrition, which is a fairly large topic area. We have aquaculture, and we have biofuels and bio-based products. And then we have these other 2 areas, 8.6 and 8.12, rural and community development and small and mid-sized farms. These are colored differently and have a little asterisk there for a couple reasons. These are the 2 that are funded at $125,000 for phase 1. They're still funded along with the other 8 topic areas at $600,000 for phase 2. But for phase 1, the award amount is a little lower, and that is because for these 2, 8.6 and 8.12, you're not required to have, this is a little redundant, but a completely new innovation. You can apply off-the-shelf technology in an innovative way for these 2 topic areas. So they're a little different in that aspect, and therefore the phase 1 award amount is a little bit smaller. But again, the phase 2 is the same. And this slide, we like to keep this slide in just to remind everybody that agriculture involves all types of science. So if you have a scientific or a technical innovation that you didn't necessarily develop for agriculture, it might be worth taking a little bit of time to think about whether there is an agricultural application for it, because we deal with almost all types of science. As you can see here, this is just a small example of the type of science that we deal with, but agriculture is, for those of you who maybe are just dropping in, agriculture is very scientifically based. Now I'm going to talk just a little bit about the typical timelines for our programs. So the phase 1 RFA is usually released in July. We still believe it will be released in July. It has been delayed a little bit, but I believe it will still be released in July this year. Then the deadline right now is set for October 6th. Reviews and award notifications, we have a panel review process that we'll talk about, and those go from December through early February. And then the start date for the awards, those who win awards, will be in July. For phase 2, and it's important to know that phase 2 is only open to phase 1 awardees. There's no direct to phase 2. Some other SBIR programs throughout the federal government have direct to phase 2, but USDA does not. So the solicitation is typically released in December. The proposal deadline is in early March. Reviews and awards are, and award notification are given from April through June. And the start date for phase 2 is in September. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the review process. So for USDA, SBIR, and STTR, proposals are evaluated by a confidential peer review panel. So we use these panels of outside experts. They come a lot from academia, but also from industry, nonprofits, and federal labs. So we assemble this panel of absolute experts to evaluate these proposals, because we believe that that gives each applicant the best opportunity. We only have so much money in our budget. We wish we could have a higher success rate with phase 1 than around a 15% success rate, but at least we have a panel of experts that is vetting these projects very closely. All the applicants received verbatim copies of the reviews, so you get feedback from the panelists. And if you're not selected, again, going back to that 15% success rate, if you're not selected in phase 1 the first time, you're more than welcome to reapply for phase 2. The feedback you receive from the panels is meant to make your proposal more, giving you suggestions to make your proposal more competitive for the next round if you choose to do that. And again, just to emphasize that phase 2 applicants can only apply once for your phase 2. So you want to make sure that you're really ready to apply for phase 2. If you can wait a year, phase 1 is typically 8 months, although it is very easy to get a 12-month extension. So you are not required to apply for phase 2 at your first opportunity. You can wait a year, you can wait even 2 years if you need to, but it's important to make that phase 2 application as competitive as possible, because you're only able to apply one time. University and government scientists' involvement in USDA SBIR STTR program. So for SBIR, you can develop a cooperative research a development agreement, or a CRADA, with a federal lab. You can do that through ARS. And if anyone is interested in doing that, you can contact me, and I have some information about how you can be connected with that. So basically, a credit agreement, if you have an innovation that a federal lab, and it doesn't have to be a USDA lab, but a federal lab also has an interest in, you may be able to develop one of these credit agreements, and it has a lot of benefits. I guess the primary benefit with a credit agreement is that it actually gives you an advantage. And we'll talk about that more in a couple of slides. But besides credit agreements, scientists can serve as consultants or receive a subcontract. There are 2 ways to do that, and continue to work full-time at your home institution for SBIR. You're limited to no more than 1/3 of the phase 1 award for SBIR, or 1/2 of the phase 2 award. scientists can serve as the PI by reducing the employment at their home institution to 49% or less for the duration of the grant. And it's usually not acceptable to use your own lab as a scientist. You have to find other lab facilities. So going back to that credit agreement, it is, this is so if two proposals are assessed to be of equal merit by the peer panel, then the one with the credit agreement will actually give an advantage, and that will be the one who is awarded. So they're very important agreements to have. And the other thing I wanted to say about credit agreements is that you actually get the use of the lab facilities that is at no cost to you. So you have a lab, you have their equipment. The only thing, if you need a piece of equipment that lab does not have, then you would be responsible for buying it. But it's a great advantage to be able to have that lab. You also have, the lab scientists to help advise you or to give you some assistance. So these are really, important pieces of opportunities, I guess is what I should say. These are important opportunities if you have an interest in pursuing that.
Melinda, a question for you. You mentioned ARS on the last slide. Could you just briefly explain who ARS is?
Yes, ARS has a technology transfer office, which works with these credit agreements. So we had a full-time person who was working with those, and she retired last year at the end of the year. And but there are still staff there that they haven't refilled her position yet, but there are still staff there that can assist you with credit agreements. You can email me, and I can get you the information about how to contact them. Because I believe there are a couple of people that are handling this right now, and so you can do that, and they can help you. You can set up a meeting with them or give them a summary of your project, and they can help you find a federal lab, if there is one, that has a similar interest that might want to work with you on your innovation. Is that helpful, Rebecca? And are there other questions?
Yes, that's very helpful. I did put also a note in the chat about where you can go to learn more about the Agricultural Research Service. And as Melinda mentioned, partnering with one of these labs through a credit agreement, can increase your odds of potentially winning funding through the USDA's SBIR STTR program.
Yes, absolutely. So some factors that are going to improve, these next few slides are about ways to improve your chances for success. Excuse me. Having a high, having a high balance between scientific and/or technical merit and commercial potential. That is just so important to balance both of those. And I just want to add that that's one of the reasons we added TABA, is to help, because many of the people that apply have a technical or scientific background, and we just wanted to help boost the business side of that. And so TABA there is to help you look at the commercial side, the commercial potential, and plan how you're going to get your innovation to market. So that assistance is there for you. And I also want to emphasize that for USDA, we really don't shy away from high risk, high reward proposals. We really understand and embrace that small business in the United States is often a disruptor of industry or sectors, and we support that, and we really welcome high risk, high reward proposals. So some other things is to have some Good consultants, make sure you have that. Again, creative agreement is an option. Also, in your proposal, if you will, demonstrate that you have some business expertise on your team. And then strong letters of support are really, the panels really look at letters of support. So this letters of support should be from phase 3 partners. So those would be, you know, your end users, consumers, who's going to buy your project, your product, and investors who might be interested in investing in phase 3 of your project. And then demonstrate in your proposal that you have a really clear understanding of how you're going to enter the market and how you're going to, once you enter the market, how are you going to sustain yourself in the market. The application process for phase 1, registrations are required in order for you to submit your application, and you know, but it's a really important step. So make sure that you go in and you register with SBIR.gov. That would probably be step 1. And then you have to register on grants.gov. But in order to do that, you have to go through with a SAM.gov registration. Or if you're already registered with SAM.gov, then make sure you do the annual update, because there is an annual update that's required. So make sure that's done. Now, if this is your initial registration with SAM.gov, this is kind of a warning that it can take a while. So if you're going to apply for USDA SBIR STTR phase 1, and we're expecting it to come out in the next 2 weeks, then this is the time to go in and get that SAM.gov registration. Can't really emphasize that enough. It can take up to 2 weeks with an additional 5 more weeks in order to get that SAM.gov registration. Not to complicate it, but I am going to take a minute to explain this. For SAM.gov, it used to be required that you have that number or you absolutely could not apply. Right now, or last year at least, it was not required. It was lifted during COVID just because of the pandemic and the crisis. However, you will still, 2 things I want to say about that. If you don't have your SAM.gov number and you go in to apply on grants.gov, you will still get a pop-up saying that you can't go forward without your SAM.gov number. So as of last year, last fall, if you ignored that and went on with it, you could still apply. Here's the important piece. I don't know how long that will be lifted. So again, prior to COVID, you had to have the SAM.gov number before you could complete application with SBIR. Right, as of last year, that wasn't true, but they could put that back in place at any time. So I'm just explaining all of that to give you all the information. But the very best thing you can do is go ahead, if you're going to apply for USDA, SBIR, STTR, or any SBIR program, then go ahead and get that SAM.gov number and get it out of the way, and then you won't have to worry about all that. So once you have that number, then you can create an account on grants.gov. And here's some more advice for phase 1 applications. So contact the topic area national program leader for a consult. So going back to our topic areas, I told you that they're very broad, and if you look through our topic areas and you're not sure which topic area your innovation belongs in, then we have an SBIR national program leader, and his name is Dr. David Songstad, and I can put in the chat in a little while his contact information, but he can help advise you about which topic area might be most closely aligned with your innovation. And so you can contact him if you're not sure which topic area or you see yourself fitting in several topic areas. And that is fairly common because of our topic areas being broad. So that's one thing you can do. If you look at our topic areas and you see a clear fit between your innovation, then you can go directly to the national program leader and ask for a consult. You don't have to do it this way. What I suggest you do is you write a very brief, informal 1 to 2 paragraph summary of your innovation in an email to the national program leader, and then ask for a consult time. That gives the national program leader just a minute to understand where you're coming from and be a little bit more prepared for your consultation. This second bullet is about formatting, and it's so important. Every year, we got close to, I believe, 700 applications, if I remember correctly, from last year, but only 526 made it through the initial administrative review for these reasons: for following the application guidelines, for format, page limits, and required documents. So you have to follow those guidelines. We have to make it fair. I know it may sound nitpicky, but we have to have some level playing field, and we have to make it fair. So, you know, if it says to be spacing for your project proposal is 1.5, and you do 1, then you get a lot more space than everybody else, and you will not make it through the administrative. You will not make it to panel. So please follow those formatting guidelines. In the new RFA, we worked very hard to make it very clear what the formatting guidelines are. So please do that. And also, the other piece of this is the required documents. Make sure that they're in the correct format. If it calls for a PDF, then make sure it is in PDF format, and make sure that you have attached all the required documents, because if you're missing one, that can also knock you out of the process. And then be sure that your application responds to all the review criteria listed in the RFA. And again, so that will be listed right there in the RFA, and just make sure that you are responding to those. Most importantly is read the RFA. Really, I know it's a long document, and I know it's tedious, and I know it's longer than some of the other RFAs coming out of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, but it really is very comprehensive, and it has all the information you need. So what I suggest, it's probably obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway, is just download, when the new RFA comes out, just download it, and then you can, you know, search it. I know you can search it online, but it's just easier maybe if you download it and have it right there. And when you have a question, use some search terms and go in there and look at it. And usually, almost always, you will find your answer there. This is my third page of advice for you. So when you're writing your proposal, take a really brief time within your proposal, to just give the peer review panel your vision, your dream. Where do you see this market opportunity going? You know what that is. You know what your dream is. You know where you see this ending at phase 3. So just take a line or two, or maybe a short paragraph, to share that with the panel so that they can share your vision and see that. And then also, it's important to focus on those critical enabling factors. And then sell the importance of your project with alignment with USDA priorities. Those priorities are listed right there in the RFA. You can look them over and create a clear understanding of the alignment of your project with those USDA priorities. You also must provide a detailed experimental plan, and it must contain proprietary information. We're very good at keeping that confidential, so that should not be any kind of worry for you. But the panel cannot properly assess your project without that detailed experimental plan. And then provide some insight into that commercial potential. As we talked about before, that's just provide a little bit of insight into how you see it going to market. And then again, show connectivity with the communities, the end users, who are your customers going to be. Do you have interest from investors? So please include all of these things in your proposal, and that will help raise your chances of success. The next few slides are about application assistance resources, and of course, the Arkansas Small Business Development Center is one of those and is an excellent one. So you have that, Small Business Development Centers. You also have FAST programs. They're federal, state, and technology programs. And they are there to help women and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, and as well as small businesses in underrepresented areas, which are typically rural states. So FAST programs are a really great resource. And to find local assistance, this down below here in the banner below is the local assistance for SBIR, STTR proposals is at sbir.gov/local assistance. And that is a great resource because you can go in and put in your state from a drop-down list, and it will populate all the organizations that assist people with SBIR grants. Lastly, I'm just going to go over a few success stories. So you get, just so you'll get a flavor of, we tried to make these varied so you get a flavor of what our SBIR success stories are in the past. This is a fairly recent success story. It's Prairie Aquatech, and they developed a technology. It's a natural process to convert soybean meal to fish feed using microbial enhancement. The name of their product is MePro, and they've had a lot of commercialization success. They received Aquafeed Innovation Award in 2019 in Cologne, Germany, and they commissioned a huge building, a 30,000 square foot facility in 2019 so that they could scale up production, and they're currently producing 30,000 tons of MePro. Stony Creek Colors. This is another success story. This was developed on an agricultural supply chain to replace synthetic dyes with plant-based drop-in solutions, and it's bio-preferred. They've had commercialization success, sales of high-purity bio-preferred natural indigo dye to world-leading brand customers. So they've been very successful, and they continue to build their business. Sunsite Wind is based in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and the founder is Dr. Devin McIntosh. He's received 7 grants from 2002 to 2014. And what he manufactures are small wind turbines that actually compete with rooftop solar, and they operate even in moderate wind speeds. This is very exciting technology. This was also a socially and economically disadvantaged application. And so we're very excited about this. He's still in the process of commercializing, but it's a very exciting new product. And then Embrex. Embrex had great success. They developed higher throughput and superior technology for ovovaccination. And this technology benefits the bird performance to enhance bird efficiency. And they've had commercialization success. In 2001, they had $44 million in revenues, and their employees increased dramatically, and they were purchased by Pfizer. we have a new SBIR STTR brochure. I hope you will go on our website and take a look at it. It gives you more success stories and goes over a lot of what I've gone over in a succinct fashion. So I hope you will take a look. Again, I'm Melinda Kaufman. I'm the program coordinator for USDA SBIR STTR, and that's my email. We also have 2 really accomplished program specialists who you can reach at sbir@usda.gov with any questions. And on the other side of the screen is our website, and I hope you will go visit our website. We're in the middle of an update of our website. So if you go in and look at it soon, please come back and visit it in August because we'll have some updates on there. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Melinda. We did have a few questions come in, and let's see, on your last slide, did you have your email address? Because a couple of folks did ask about that, or would you rather share that separately?
I'm sorry, my email address?
Yes.
Sure. Let me put that in the chat. I'm sorry, you might have noticed I'm not too familiar with GoToWebinar, so
I can put it in there too. If you'd like, I could just do that part.
Okay, yes, and also, I was going to give them David Songstad's email address.
I went ahead and put that in there because I had it on hand.
So okay, great, fantastic. And again, David Songstad is the SBIR STTR national program leader. So he is familiar with all the topic areas. And again, if you're not sure which one you might fit into or which is the best fit, you can contact him for a consult.
Okay, very good. And you're also sharing your screen, just so you know, it looks like one of our email threads.
Sorry.
No worries. So our first question asks, as you talk through these areas of SBIR, I'm not seeing any health-related projects for humans. Is this a newish focus? And is there enthusiasm for human health projects as well, in terms of SBIR?
Well, we do have food. It is probably mostly we see those in food science and nutrition. So you know, things around food safety that can also be in 8.6, which is rural and community development. There's that is a really interesting topic area that has things about health. It's about rural communities and rural healthcare, along with other things. It includes, it's broad, it's also broad. It has, it's about broadband, it's all that, but it also includes, you know, healthcare and human health. And those are the 2 most obvious ones that come to mind, but you know, there could be others depending on your focus.
Okay, great. And Melinda, we were talking yesterday, it sounds like USDA will also support human subject studies.
Yes.
And to some extent, a clinical trial might also be an option for proposals. Yes, it can be. Frankly, we don't get those very often, but I know there has been one since I began a couple years ago. And so, yes, there are, you know, there are of course requirements to go through in order to do that, but yes. Okay, wonderful. The next question asks, who do we need to talk with about the section of the SBIR project? I think this is asking about the research area where we fit into with our project idea. So right now, since the new RFA is not published, you can go to our website and download the RFA from last year. So that would be FY22 phase 1. And it should be pretty easy to find on our website. And you can, within that RFA are all the topic areas and the explanation of the topic areas, but also the national program leaders, their contact information.
And so you can get that information about the national program leader and do, you don't have to do it this way. You can do it any way you want. You can just call them up if you want and try to catch them. But I suggest that you do a little summary, just very informal, 1 paragraph, maybe 2, in an email and about your project, and then email it to them and ask them for a consult. That's how we do it. We are, again, updating our website, and we're going to pull out that information from about the topic areas and put it on our website so that people don't have to go in and download or open the RFA in order to have that information. It'll be a little handier. But right now, if you want to do it today, you can go in and look at last year's RFA.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Melinda. I'll put a link to that in the chat too.
Oh, great.
Our next question, in phase 1, how important is it to involve customers in the research and development project?
In phase 1 is more, that is a fine thing to do. If you are prepared to do that, then that is great. What you want to do for phase 1 is to demonstrate that you believe that you're going to have customers in phase 3 as you commercialize. But phase 1 is focused on the proof of concept, and that, I think that weighs a little more heavily. So you want to make sure that your innovation is viable and feasible. But if you have a lot of information or a lot of evidence that your innovation is commercializable, then certainly include that. It's just that phase 2 is usually a little more focused on commercialization, but there's nothing wrong with having that in phase 1. Just don't short the technical piece of your technical scientific piece of your project in favor of commercialization, if that makes any sense. Again, it goes with that balance. You have to have both. Phase 1 is usually a little more heavily weighted on your proof of concept and just establishing that footing, so to speak, for your innovation. And then phase 2 focuses on evening those up with commercialization potential. Does that help?
Yes, I believe so. If that person has any follow-up questions, let me know. Thank you. I think that's good. Our next question asks, it's really just looking for some clarification about where to vector their idea. He said he's looking for a place to fund his lab project. It is using 4.0 technology to manufacturing workshop to create a sustainable manufacturing system.
Could you repeat? I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Oh, sure. Just a sec. He's trying to find where to fit his project idea in with the USDA, and I know that looking at the topics is a good starting point in the RFA. But okay. He said this project involves using 4.0 technology to manufacturing a workshop that will create a sustainable manufacturing system.
Well, what I think I would suggest is that you contact Dr. David Songstad and talk with him about it. I think I'm understanding the question, and I think that might be. It's certainly not going to hurt to go ahead and contact him and get some advice from him. There is a manufacturing. It was an executive order from the Bush administration that still is in place. So having an innovation that includes manufacturing is also somewhat of an advantage. So I would suggest that you talk with Dr. Songstad, use his email, do the same thing maybe. Again, you don't have to, it's just my advice. But do the same thing where you just give him a very short, brief summary and then ask him for a consult.
Thanks, Melinda. I'm putting his information back in the chat just in case it got pushed down with everything else that's gone out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question asks, if a company asks for TABA funds to get their own vendors, can they start working on those commercialization efforts in tandem with the phase 1 project, or does it need to be after that has been completed?
I'm going to answer a question, but I want to know if my answer is not on target with the question. So for phase 1, you'd have if you asked for TABA, you would get $6,500, and that $6,500 is for whatever you really need as far as technical and business assistance, but it's also to help build your commercialization plan for phase 2, for applying for phase 2. So it's kind of a bit of a dual purpose there, but a lot of people, it's pretty common to use it for intellectual property, but that again may be a little bit more in phase 2. So I would say that most small businesses use the $6,500 to build their commercialization plan for phase 2, but again, you don't have to do it that way, although you will need a strong commercialization plan for phase 2. I'm not sure that answers the question, so please let me know if you need more information.
Yeah, I think if you're able to clarify a little bit, if they can start working on this commercialization planning, like they can access the funds for TABA at the same time they start their phase 1 project for the research and development side of things, or if there's any kind of guideline that they need to be done separately.
No, it goes hand in hand. I'm sorry, it goes hand in hand with phase 1. So yes, you can be doing both. So you can be working on your proof of concept and at the same time working on the commercialization plan.
Okay, great. Let's see. What you mentioned that the letters of support were important to include. Is there any kind of limitation on letters of support that USDA has?
Well, one thing, it's just a little thing, that those are not supposed to be written to USDA. They should be, they shouldn't be addressed to us. They're just general letters of support. Just having, there's not any kind of defined number. I would suggest, have at least 2, maybe up to 4. So 2 to 4 strong letters of support. I guess if you don't feel like you have really strong letters of support, then maybe if you can pull together some extra letters of support from various end users, that would also be good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. See if there's any other questions. One question asks, how important is it to include graphics in the work plan and other places to help indicate what the project will look like?
That's a really good question. But I would say when you're writing your proposal, what you're trying to do is give the reviewers a clear vision of what that is, what your proposal entails. And so that is going to be kind of up to you. Does this graphic really provide vital information that will let the panel, that will clarify to the panel what I'm doing, what I'm envisioning? So I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule. There's no hard and fast rule. I've never heard, hey, this proposal had no graphics, so we didn't consider it very strongly. I don't think it's about that. It's more about the best way you can communicate your vision and what your innovation is and what your plan is to test the feasibility of it and to bring it to market.
Okay, great, thank you. And then does USDA have any particular way that they record how many of their awards go to first-time companies that haven't won before, or very early in terms of having an operational business versus those that are already established?
You know, we do have some of that data. I don't have it right off the top, and I'm not sure how recently we run that data. It's a good question. We do, of course, there are limits on the number of SBIR awards a company can have in a certain period of time. And so we do watch out for that very quickly, because we do want, you know, the awards to be going not to the same people over and over again, the same businesses, but to have, you know, to give those new startups opportunities. So we do have those statistics available. We don't run them regularly, but we do have them available. And there's it may be within the SBIR annual report. The annual report includes all the SBIR programs throughout the federal government, and I'm trying to recall if that is within the report, and I'm just not quite sure, but it may be in there. You can get that at sbir.gov.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melinda. And on your slide that talked about advice for a phase 1 application, one of the fields said focus on critical enabling factor. And so one of our questions is what is meant by critical enabling factor?
That's a good question. So it's just, what are the critical factors that will enable your innovation to take hold in the marketplace, to be successful? So what do you, you know, if there's, you know, usually an innovation fills a need either that people are aware of, that there's a gap, or it could be a need that will push something forward that people aren't even aware of, that will really advance a certain area or sector. And so outlining what those factors are that will either fill that need or push a sector forward is what is meant by critical enabling factors.
Wonderful, thank you.
Demonstrate the need, I guess, is the easiest way to say that.
Okay, sure, yeah, thank you. This next question kind of ties in with that a little bit. Many of these agencies have I-Core programs that are focused on customer discovery to learn more about the market need. Does USDA tend to view applications more favorably when a company has done some customer discovery?
For phase 1?
Yes.
That is a really good question, and I'm going to be really honest. I'm not sure I know the exact answer to that, because again, phase 1 is pretty, you know, focused on the establishing the feasibility of the actual research. So you have to have that proof of concept research really well outlined. If in addition you have more commercialization, that's great, but it can't replace the scientific part of it, where you're establishing the feasibility for the actual innovation. Sure. Is that helpful?
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, great, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. I do want to take a moment just to give a quick plug for America's Seed Fund Week, which is the week we're in right now. This is a virtual programming that's being brought to you by the Small Business Administration, which, as Melinda mentioned, that this is the entity that provides oversight for the SBIR STTR program. And so all this week you can participate in America's Seed Fund Week. The link is in the chat now. And this is a kind of a one-stop shop to learn about all the agencies, including USDA, at one given place, and how to be successful in submitting applications to those programs. I usually work with clients that submit applications to more than one agency, although I always say start with one proposal at a time. But you might find other opportunities for your technology beyond USDA, even if USDA might be the initial natural fit for you. So do take a moment to check out this programming. It's only happens once a year, and it's kind of a unique way to engage with the program managers and learn more about the agency's missions and interests for the SBIR STTR program. As I mentioned at the start, we'll be sharing slides by the start of next week with you, so you'll have that as well as the recording for your reference. I want to thank Melinda again for a wonderful presentation and sharing all the new updates with the USDA's programs, and taking all these questions from us.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to be here, and I just really enjoy these opportunities. So thank you, and I hope it was helpful.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope everyone found this valuable. If you're from Arkansas and you'd like some more assistance or have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. I guess I should put my information up here too.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty easy to find me online, but I'll put my email in the chat. You can email me and we can definitely schedule a meeting or a call. Happy to help you through the process of preparing your USDA, SBIR, or STTR application. So with that.
Yes, and I just want to, if I could, I just want to say that Rebecca has great experience and is very well known within the SBIR, STTR community. And so if you have an opportunity to work with her, I would certainly encourage you to do that.
Well, thanks so much, Melinda.
Of course.
So I hope everyone found this valuable and look forward to working with you on your proposals. Have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy also America's Seed Fund Week programs. Thanks again, Melinda. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.